Hello chess friends and welcome to Jan of Chess channel and welcome to a spectacular game of the round 8 of the Superbet Chess Classic in Romania. We have here the epic battle between Jan-Krzysztof and Alireza, and this game I really liked because Alireza created really madness all over the board where the position seemed like a drawish position, where the position seemed to be really boring. There was also a certain symmetry in the position. Alireza created madness all over the board, spiced up the game, and then the game became tactical. In my opinion, really beautiful game to study. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. Jan-Krzysztof opened with the move d4. We have d5 by Alireza, c4, c6, the Slav defense, knight to c3, knight to f6, and now we have the exchange variation with the move c takes d5. And I guarantee you, a Slav defense player doesn't like to play the exchange variation, I'm sure, because the Slav defense, I think, has dynamic ideas when you play, of course, something like here, knight to f3. From white's perspective, then you can play d takes c4, or you can go into semi-Slav structure, then to play maybe d takes c4 afterwards. But this immediately c takes d5, c takes d5 creates a symmetrical position, and that's, I think, what black doesn't like many times in the position, to create immediately certain symmetry, because white is always a 1+ tempo up. White will simply develop the pieces, and you're always struggling development with the black pieces. So I think that the exchange variation is something also that bothers black many times when you play the Slav defense. So here bishop to f4, knight to c6 by Alireza. We have e3, bishop to f5. Both players have now aggressive ideas with both of these bishops. We have now knight to f3, and you see after move e6, it's really a symmetrical position, and many times these types of games end in a draw. Now after move queen to b3, of course, here we have an attack against the pawn on b7. In the game, Alireza is playing now the move bishop to b4, and now also bishop to b5, here played by Jan-Krzysztof. And this move bishop to b4 is really good by Alireza, because in this types of positions where the pawn structure is symmetrical, where basically there's simply no progressive plan here for both sides, I think we should also evaluate our knights as good pieces, because look at this, for instance, let's see a different line. Bishop to e2, maybe we play castling from black's perspective, maybe we play something like a3. Don't be bothered by the possibility to give up maybe the bishop for knight, because in these symmetrical positions, as I said, the knights are really good pieces. Maybe the game can transpose into something like this, but look at this. Your knights are also very active in these types of structure. Look at this. The knights will eventually find their way into the game. So as I said, in these types of positions, both players you see played aggressive with the bishop, but they don't care. If you have to give up the bishop for knight, it's perfectly fine. So in the game, we have now kingside castling, bishop to c6 here played by Jan-Krzysztof, bishop to c3. So you see, both players have now traded the bishop for knight, and which is leaving now, of course, a position. These are opposite color bishops, and many times even these types of structures, these types of positions, these types of trades of pieces lead into drawish lines. But look at this, what happens. Queen to c3 played by Jan-Krzysztof, and now black goes usually into this line. Rook to c8 is trying to get the bishop back. You can maybe even play something like queen to b4. Now you can take also with the pawn. You can also, I think, take with the rook here, because of queen to b7, queen to c8. This is now a method to simplify the game enough after a couple of trades of queens, although black is down a pawn. But usually this is a drawish position because of this opposite color bishops. But after move queen to c3, now comes the Alireza idea here. He plays aggressively with the move knight to e4. We have queen to a3, and now b takes c6, which creates now an unbalanced and asymmetrical pawn structure. But of course, the downside is that you have a weak square here on c5 in black's camp, and also a weak backward pawn on c6. And of course, Jan-Krzysztof, a strong grandmaster, uses this moment immediately. But now comes the dirty idea here by Alireza. He played the move g5, and this is now a theoretical novelty, a move that has never been played in chess history before. At least I'm not seeing games in the database. Queen to b6 has been played. Rook to c8 has been also played in one game that I found in the database. But now with the move g5, Alireza creates madness all over the board, leaves now even the c6 pawn unprotected, but is now attacking the bishop, and he's trying to make progressive ideas here on the king side. Really wild stuff. So in the game, after move g5, bishop to g3, now comes a new critical moment, I think, in the game immediately. Alireza makes here already inaccurate move rook to c8. I think if you have started to play aggressively here on the king side, then continue to play aggressively on the king side. Now I think, look at this, after move bishop to g3, h5 is the perfect move. You're forcing your opponent to play something like h4, g4, the knight drops back, you pick up here the bishop on g3, after f takes g3, look at this, queen to b8, you are keeping the attack, you're keeping the attacking flow in the game. That would be, I think, a better continuation here for Alireza. You have to even play some wild ideas like e4 to connect the queen to the pawn on g3. So this was, I think, the way to go. But this move rook to c8 is, I think, not meeting with the idea that you played in the beginning, the move g5. Now you started to play aggressively, now you start to continue to play passively. In my opinion, this wasn't a good choice here by Alireza. Now he's saying, okay, I attacked you, but now I had enough of it. So in my opinion, this was really one of the critical moments of the game, because Alireza stopped to be aggressive here. If he would have continued maybe to play more aggressive with h5, h4, g4 ideas, I think you could have a really good game. But okay, let's see now what happened. Rook to c8, now knight to d2 here, played by Jan-Krzysztof. He challenges now the knight immediately. Knight to g3, h takes g3, and you see now it's a different story. This is a healthy pawn structure now. It's not a messed up pawn structure. In the previous example, when we had this position, it was a different story. It was a messed up pawn structure on both sides here. So in my opinion, this was a much better continuation for Alireza. But okay, after move knight to d2, knight to g3, h takes g3, king to g7, Alireza continues now with his plan to push the pawn on h5, maybe then later to h4, and then also to create again some madness on the king side. So in the game we have now rook to c5. This is the way to go for Jan-Krzysztof. He is using his momentum here. He knows that black has structural weaknesses, this backward pawn on c6, weak square on c5, and also the third obvious weakness is now the pawn on a7. So white has an easy game here on the queen side. Of course, we know our targets and it's easy to attack them. On the other hand, the Alireza's progress here on the king side is obvious too, because we are eventually pushing the move the pawns to h5 and h4, but it's really hard to make something here because white never castled into your attack. So white can even, I think, stay a little bit longer here with the king in the center, because the flank attack is going here on the king side. So in the game we have rook to a5 by Jan-Krzysztof. He attacks now the pawn on a7, rook to c7, rook to a7, rook to a7, queen to a7, and now h5. And now you see how hard it is to make progress here, because actually h5 is not a good move here by Alireza. The problem about this move is actually that you are allowing the knight to jump on f3, and now from the square f3, for instance, if you play now g4, look at this, the knight is coming on e5, you have weaknesses on f7, you have weaknesses on c6. So this was a risky choice by Alireza, but he tried to make progress here with this main idea that he started to push the pawn on h5. But now here Jan-Krzysztof doesn't react correctly. He plays now the move b3. He had the chance to play the move knight to f3, but again Alireza just sees his ideas. He never sees here Jan-Krzysztof ideas, because now after g takes h4 and g takes h4 again, Jan-Krzysztof has the opportunity to jump with the knight on f3. Again, Alireza, instead of this move h4, should have played here g4, not allowing this knight to jump on this very active square. But okay, again, a tiny little inaccuracy by Alireza. G takes h4, g takes h4, knight to f3, and now there's simply an unstoppable attack. Now look at this, the queen is on the 7th rank, the knight is on e5, the knight can jump maybe later on g5. We have here a passer on the a file. So really bad game now for black. I think this is now a one-way ticket in white's favor. So in the game, bishop to g6 by Alireza, rook to h3. Whatever white does now, I think this is perfectly fine. We have queen to a8 by Alireza, queen takes a8, rook takes a8, and now a4 here by Jan-Krzysztof. He is using now his progress here on the queen side. So in the game, bishop to c2. So Alireza is fighting now for a draw. He wants to take out now the pawns on the queen side. We have now rook takes h4, bishop to b3, and now rook to g4 here by Jan-Krzysztof. King to f8 drops back here, of course, and now rook to f4 with the preparation to play rook to e5 or a rook, pardon me, knight to e5 or knight to g5, and then continue the pressure against this weakness on f7. But if the knight jumps here on e5, then also the c6 pawn is a vulnerable square here. So in the game, we have now another bad move here by Alireza. We have to say this move is causing now many problems in black's position. You see now why, because first of all, Alireza has to go active with the king. Even if this move happens, knight to e5, you play f6. Now when the knight maybe takes out now the pawn on c6, you can be now more active with your king. That's the way to go. Maybe the knight drops back to b4, you can attack the knight, and now after move knight to d3, we can even play bishop to c4. And even in some lines, if black is down a pawn, still in this kind of rook endings, this should be a drawish position for sure. But after move rook to a7, here Jan-Krzysztof Duda realized the possibility that now the rook becomes overloaded to the defense of the square f7 and also of the defense of the potential progress of the pawn, because here Jan-Krzysztof Duda played the beautiful a5 move. For instance, if you play rook to a5, then it's a different story. Then the knight is coming here, you have an attack against the pawn on f7, you can maybe defend the pawn on f7, but now knight to e6 is an opportunity, and then we hop with their knight on c5. And it's a messed up game. The knight on c5 will never be kicked away by any piece there. It will be this octopus knight that would control the whole center of the board. So this would be then again a bad game here for black. So after move a5, you see you cannot take out the pawn. So that's why Alireza dropped back to a4. And now comes a6. Also maybe a tiny little accurate move by Jan-Krzysztof Duda, but basically white can play whatever white wants. But I wanted to show you what kind of an idea actually Jan-Krzysztof Duda already had. It's a wild idea, but it would be really one of the best endgames that I've seen in my life if Jan-Krzysztof Duda would have played this idea. Look at this, rook to e5 is actually working because pardon me, knight to e5 is working because over king to g7, there is this possibility to sacrifice the rook here, to sacrifice the material. Rook to f7, knight to f7, king to f7, and now this pawn is rolling. In order to stay in the game, black needs now to play the move c5 in order to get the bishop on c6 and control the ax square. But now in the continuation, d takes c5 after bishop to c6, now the king is coming closer, and I think with these two pawns against the bishop and with this possibility to create a passer here on the king side, this should be a winning already game here for white. Really wild stuff. So okay, as I said, instead of this move a6, maybe knight to e5 was better, simply sacrificing something here around the square f7 and then make further progress with the a pawn. But okay, a6 also perfectly fine because Alireza has now to play the move b5, bishop to b5. We have now knight to g5 here played by Jan-Krzysztof Duda. We have now bishop to a6, and now comes again this tactical idea, knight to e6. You see there's simply too much pressure now on the f file. The king has to go here to e7, and now knight to g5. Here we have a continuation of the pressure against the pawn on f7. We have now the move f6, and now knight to h7 here. Jan-Krzysztof Duda is playing on a simple threat. He will take out now also the pawn on f6. So Alireza is fighting. He's trying a tactical approach to the game. He's trying to somehow make a draw here by lining up the rook also against the knight, but it's not working because of bishop to d3. We have rook to e5, first the check of course, and now Jan-Krzysztof Duda get out of the mess. Now the knight is not attacked anymore. Alireza is trying rook to a2 with some ideas to make something around the square e2, but now here Jan-Krzysztof Duda drops back and he can now play a solid continuation. The rook is fixed here, and now what Jan-Krzysztof Duda is of course trying just to push the pawns here on the king side. So after knight h3, Alireza played bishop to c4, tried to somehow connect everything, also playing the move rook to e2, but it's not enough here as promised. Duda just continue to pressure here on the king side, try to push the pawns. We have a check, but nothing spectacular can happen here. The king is really not endangered because you cannot just deliver checkmate with the bishop and the rook. So g5, we have c5, of course you cannot take because the rook is hanging, but Duda doesn't care. He simply continues to push the pawn. We have bishop to b3, a check. After a couple of checks, now the king can hide on f3. No good checks are possible. You can maybe deliver one, but it doesn't matter. Here in the game, c4. Alireza is trying to spice up the game by pushing his own pawn here on the c file, but again it's not working here. Duda played rook to e8, after rook to a7, here rook to d8, then in this position actually Alireza resigned. So why did he resign? Because this pawn is here unstoppable. You can play maybe king to e6 here, but then the knight is coming into the game. You can maybe play king to f6 again and check. Now knight to h5, whatever you do. For instance, you play king to g8. You can even get checkmated here. The same thing happens if you go with your king to h8. If you play maybe something like king to f8 here, then again rook to d8. Then we can push the pawn further. Here g7, we can promote the queen. Whatever you do. So as I said, after rook to d8, you can play maybe king to c6 here. But again, the knight is coming on f4. You can play block it, but look at this. Rook to d5 is a possibility. You can maybe take out this one, rook to c5. So as I said, simply too much pressure in this moment. If you don't play the move rook to g7, if you start to push your own pawn, look at this, a rook to c8 is going to happen. You can maybe try to cover everything. Rook to c7, king to c7. We push now the pawn. The bishop is not connected to the g8 square. You can push here also your pawn, but now knight to d3 is controlling the c1 square, and there's simply no defense against the promotion on g8. So as I said, after move rook to d8 that Jan-Krzysztof Duda played in this position, Alireza resigned. So okay, great game, I think. I know I praised really maybe even too much Alireza in the last couple of days, but still, you see, I like his progress. I like his ideas in the middle game stage. And although he lost this game, he really spiced up the game with the move g4. Let's go back. In my opinion, it was a beautiful part with move g5 here. He really spiced up the game in a seemingly drawish symmetrical position. He really created madness all over the board. He missed the continuation, but he spiced up the game. He never settles for a draw, and that's, I think, a refreshment in top grandmaster level, because none of us wants to see, of course, too many draws. We want to see winning, attractive, attacking games, and that's why we love Alireza. Although he lost now his game, maybe he lost also to his chances to win the whole thing, but he is always an attractive player to watch. But we have to say it, Jan-Krzysztof Duda played awesome chess today. Really played solid positional chess, found his ideas in the endgame stage. Congratulations to Jan-Krzysztof Duda. He has now also chances to make a respective result in this super event. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas for sure in the Slav defense. If you want to see more games from this event, check out our coverage so far. Here are some games that we have analyzed before. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say. Chess is the best, of course.